Dawg, and I've got a spectacular show for us today. I know we've done a lot of exceptional broadcasts, but this is the Mac Daddy. It is the mama of all broadcasts. I've got some of the stars of the industry on the broadcast today, not just stars, superstars, legends. Legends besides me. Let me tell you, we got some really strong people on the broadcast today. Today we're going to talk about what you should do if you bought a dealership today, what changes you would make. About 4 years ago, I spoke on the main stage at Digital Dealer Convention Conference, and I was the opening speaker, and my speech was 20 things I'd change if I bought your dealership. It turned out it was one of the highest rated speeches in history, and turned out I wrote an article about it a little bit later in Auto Dealer Today magazine, and it was the most read article in the history of their magazine. I mean, big, great interest in that subject. What would you change to convert your store to a modern facility, modern processes with modern vendors, modern techniques? What would you change? So we're going to be asking this expert panel those questions, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I can promise you. Okay, today we have direct from Moscow, Russia, the mad Russian, the infiltrator, acting as if he is a reinsurance expert, really here to tamper with the elections, Max Zanan.
Broadcasting from Spain, by the way.
You're in Spain today, aren't you?
I am.
You talk about wealthy. This guy's got an apartment.
I mean, listen, the 20 things that I did in my life allow me to broadcast from Spain.
Okay. An apartment in New York, one in Philadelphia, and now you got one in Spain. Gosh. And recently re-employed about 2 weeks ago, Dealer Socket kicked him to the curb with about 300 other people. My friend Jeremy Lewis. You're now vice president of Quantum 5.
Vice president of sales at Quantum 5. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here. Look forward to the show.
I always like having you on. We have similar accents, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna prove that we're not all Gomer Pyle down here. Okay. Yeah. And one of the most brilliant women in the car business. I'm talking about a woman that is dealer quality. You're going to be a dealer pretty soon, aren't you, Jennifer?
Very soon, yeah, very soon.
Okay. Tell me about that in 10 seconds.
Okay. Well, I've been working here and doing some work with a large group who is sponsoring me through Dealer Academy. So I've been going back and forth between, do I go that way with franchise, start with Indy, and I actually almost opened my own lot January 15th of 2020. But, my mom got sick at the end of 2019. So
I remember that. Yeah.
That got backburnered. Thank goodness that I got backburnered, because that would have been a super interesting start right before the shutdown.
Now, you've been a general manager.
I actually, the first time I became a general manager, Jim, I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
So I've been in management positions for well over 20 years now, and it's been exciting learning today's topic's awesome, because learning the dealership from the financial statement forward and being through as many buy sells as I've been through, this topic is going to be really exciting.
Well, I am excited to be your friend. I've never been a general manager personally. I've been a general sales manager in multiple platforms, but multiple dealerships. But I've never and I wasn't a record-setting general manager either. I was a pretty good general sales manager. All the records I ever set were in finance. So that's where that goes. And another Atlantan, no accent whatsoever, one of the premier sales trainers in the entire known universe, my friend Jonathan Dawson. Hey, big guy.
Hey, listen, honored to be here, happy to be here, and here to serve you, and those can tune in. I'm excited to be here, Jim. Thanks. Glad
to have you. And now, directly from Northwood University, one of the college students who's attended a couple of my classes at Northwood. I'm an adjunct professor. High school graduate, take that. Anyway, my friend Connor Cummings.
Hey, Jim, thank you for having me on. I'm just looking forward to being 1% better tomorrow than I am today. I think the show's a good step forward to that. Looking forward to learn, take something out of it. I got my pen and some paper down, so I'm going to be taking some notes along the way as well.
I am so pleased at the quality Northwood is turning out of tomorrow's leaders. And I'm proud to know you too, by the way. I mean, you look at me, I look at you as somebody I am extremely proud to be associated with. And if I helped your career or your development, that's part of my legacy.
I credit a lot of my knowledge to you too as well, Jim. I mean, I read a lot of your books. I'm fortunate enough to be able to contact you at even the worst hours of the night. Thank you for everything, your involvement to the university and just investing in my future as well.
Take care, big guy. Here comes Scott Joseph, a dealer principal. I didn't realize you were a dealer principal. You own a Honda dealership, right?
3 of them.
Well, if you could hire this guy next to you, you'd quadruple your value. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I know. This is the first time I've been on stage with him. I'm going to be calling him after, working him hard.
Okay.
It's going to take a big signing bonus. I can't wait.
You're in Louisville, Kentucky, right?
Yes.
Glad to have you with us.
I appreciate
and one
it.
of the top salespersons in the history of the automobile industry. This guy sells 150, 160, 340, I think is his record.
In my own head, yes. Yes, that is.
Piazza Honda, Springfield, Pennsylvania. My friend, Frank Cranitti. Hi, Frank.
How you doing, my friend? So glad to be invited on this glorious stage with all these great people. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's a good crew, isn't it? Look
It's
around.
a phenomenal crew. This crew is like top notch. This is I only got more dressed up if I knew the crew was this nice. Like, you know,
Oh yeah. What can I say?
I only got my Tommy Bahama on today. I'm feeling a little underdressed, you know.
Yeah, well, hey, I got some Tommy Bahama. You know how to tell if a Tommy Bahama shirt is genuine, one of the Hawaiian flowered shirts? If the flowers match up across the seam.
Nice.
Tommy Bahama is the only Hawaiian shirt where the flower leaves continue on the same pattern. Okay.
We can shut down the stream now. We can all walk away.
That was it.
Yeah, okay, you've been educated. Okay, the dealer just walked out in the dealership and announced the sale of the dealership. His kids are brain dead. There's no succession. The dealer, he or she, is going to retire on all that reinsurance money they cashed in offshore. You know.
Good job, Max.
Yeah. Okay. And they just announced that this is now Frank Cranitti Motors.
Beautiful.
This is now Jennifer Briggs Cadillac. It's Connor Cummings Chevrolet. You know, it's Jeremy Lewis Acura. Okay. That you bought the dealership. Jonathan Dawson Honda. Okay, so first thing we're looking at is the facility. A generic dealership, not mentioning any specific dealership or company. What would you change in most of these stores? Max, you've been in a lot of them. What are you going to change?
So, I'll be honest with you, Jim. I am totally against image upgrades that are forced down, by the OEMs. I might try to see the OEMs force down the website updates, right? Because whether we like it or not, every single customer, before they walk into the showroom, visit a dealership's website. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, some of
we're going to website in a minute. Stay off that subject till I get there.
No problem. So that's number one, right? I'm against image updates. The very first thing I think that I would do, right, and this has nothing to do with what I do for a living, right? I would mandate, right, this is the trendy word now, I would mandate one price selling, right? Because one price selling will immediately change the way you hire, the way you pay, the way you train, the way you present why buy from us, the way you treat your customers. And I think if you are really serious about at some point in the future competing with Amazon, that at some point in the future will be selling cars, this is the only way to do it.
Now, already Scott Joseph is shaking his head. He respects your right to be wrong.
Well, yes, I do respect that. And so Amazon doesn't have the same price across the same product line.
Nope, they do not.
No, do not.
And if I'm doing a better job and offer a better experience and I service better, I expect to make more money.
Exactly.
One price doesn't mean a
One
giveaway
price doesn't mean cheapest price.
Right, exactly. One price doesn't mean giveaway price. It can be.
I expect to sell it for more than what my competitors are selling it for.
No, I'm going to say I've always been adamant about negotiation. I invented Foursquare.
I mean, I sell cars here for more than other salespeople sell cars for, and people gladly pay me that for the experience, the in and out of here in 45 minutes, the level of service that they get, the world-class customer experience, the follow-up, complete access to me 24/7 through social media, text messaging, email, virtually Zoom calls, like whatever it is. They'll pay me for that. If they could say they pay that guy over there that's a new salesperson or has been here for 17 years but acts like he's a new salesperson every single day, $1,000 less, or deal with me, be in and out of here in a timely fashion and know the experience that they're going to get. That's why I'm selling 150 plus cars a month, and that's why people are paying me at the highest end of the grosses every single month. I'm at the top of the dealership.
How much you sell last month, Frank?
I don't even know. That was such a long time ago. 120 probably.
Yeah,
you had a bad month.
Yeah. Hey, it actually was. We were a little short in 17 days.
Even if that is part of your long-term goal in the acquisition of that store, that would not be something that I would recommend doing on day one. Because you're going to blow out your whole team doing it that way, and you're not going to have it would set you up for failure doing that in the very beginning. If that's your long-term goal.
I teach both ways, by the way.
Let's get Max to clarify his position first, because I'm curious, Max. Are you saying, Max, that you just believe that there should be a non-negotiating price that's advertised and that the customer buys it for whatever that margin is that you aim for based on whatever reason, but whatever the price is doesn't change per customer? That's what you're advocating for?
That's exactly right, because I think that's fair. And again, I think the misconception is that one price means a low price. By no means it means a low price. Every time I shop on Amazon, I don't think I'm getting the best price available, but I'm willing to pay more for convenience. I'm willing to pay more for transparency.
Well, Max, you've led us pretty much off of the subject. It was facility. And
facility.
Here you are grinding your personal axe. We'll get to pricing in a minute, okay? Max cleverly took us down his path, his agenda. Okay.
It's not my agenda, Jim. You know, I'm in business.
It's your agenda. You bring it up every broadcast. Of course, it's your agenda. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. So, Jim, to your question about the facility.
You got to remember, he's a communist. Oh, okay.
Stop. So to your question about facility, though, I think one of the most underdeveloped aspects of a dealership's facility is like a house to sell to a home buyer. The bathrooms, the kitchen, right? So that's in a home. Well, in a dealership, it's again the bathrooms and it's the lounge and the customer waiting area. I do think that we still will have customers who will wait in a dealership, whether it be for service or for different aspects of the sale process. But I do feel like a lot of times when I'm in a store, I like go into a bathroom and I'm like, wow, I've been in Chick-fil-A's that are selling $4 sandwiches that have more thought put into their bathroom than dealerships selling $40,000 cars. So that would be a very, very simple, immediate thing you could do to enhance the customer experience, is make it so when people walk in and out of your bathrooms, they're like, wow, this place is really nice.
Well, part of what I would change about the facility, Connor and I are going to come up last here a second, but anyway, the first thing I would change is we advertise big sale. I mean, big ass sale. We advertise it everywhere. And then you get to the dealership and it doesn't look like a big sale. There's nothing, no point of contact, sale information, no excitement. All the salespeople walking around with that Bart Simpson pissed off face, you know. I mean, it's one of those, nobody looks happy in a dealership. You ever notice that? Yeah. Nobody. We got a ton of background noise.
I think that's Frank. It's probably Frank's show floor.
Yeah, that's Frank's show floor. No problem. Okay, everybody knows that Frank has a lot of activity happening around him. So we're gonna endure it and love it. So anyway, facility. The other thing is I would probably move the sales management desk to a point where they can, probably a corner of the showroom where they can see most of the showroom. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of the inventory. Salespeople, but sales managers have to have visibility of their business in real time.
Are we restricted by what the OEM requires in this, or is this a wish list that we get to do whatever we want?
Manufacturers have no concept how to sell cars.
Yeah.
So
I would build a sales tower, by the way. And people say, why would you have a sales tower? Well, first of all, I want to elevate the sales management where they can see over the rooftops of every car and have the greatest visibility of their business. You know, I mean, I want the sales managers to be elevated. I'm going to have sales managers in motion like sharks that never stop swimming. Connor, now you just recently got out of an internship in a dealership. What would you change about the showroom?
So our showroom, the store I worked at, it's a LEED Silver certified, so it's pretty up to date in terms of like technology.
Say which one it was. Say which one it was. I'd be proud.
It's LaFontaine's sole bow tie store. It's their Chevy store. It's located in Dexter, Michigan. I think they're top 50 in the state in Chevy dealers, if that means anything to you guys. But so anyways, the sales floor was really modern. I really wouldn't change too much, especially I think it's important to have different brands with the kind of feel with it. It's like, you know, you want your Cadillac store to kind of be more private, and then your Chevy store, I'd be cool with it being open. But one thing that I was a big fan or component of to try to get them to do is have specific sales offices. So let's say you're going to go and order a Corvette, and these Corvettes, it take like 2 years for the car actually to get on the ground. So something I was a big proponent was to make like a Corvette specialty sales room, whether it be actual, instead of like those cheap pamphlets that GM sends you, it'd be actual swatches of the car. You would have different lights on it to kind of get the different angles. So like, you know, you see like real tacky color, like I think it was Zeus Copper, Zeus Brown. You know, when you look at this pamphlet, you know, it looks kind of dull, but when you put some light on it, it dances, it shimmers and shines, baby. And along with the Corvette room, you can also put a Camaro room in there. You know, kind of like the outfitted trucks, you know, if you ever heard of Tuscany, SEA, Callaway, those kind of things, you know, make those customers feel more, not better than the rest of them, but at the same time, they're paying us more. So you want them to feel better.
Listen to this college student and his insight at this stage. I mean, just.
No, he's not here yet.
So I think one thing that we're talking about facilities and everybody's jumping into the showroom. The first thing I change would actually be out in the lot. And that would be installing beacons on every light in the parking lot that I'd be able to use to ping mobile devices as they come on, and also track the traffic on the lot every day, 24/7, to get a real good idea of what type of real lot traffic there is, as opposed to what gets logged.
That's why you are who you are, Jennifer. Display is a lost art. Would you agree, Frank?
100%. 100%.
We don't display our cars. I drive pit when I'm consulting a dealership. First thing I do, 7 o'clock in the morning, is I drive from both directions to see what it looks like to the consumers.
Oh yeah.
Your front line is 1/4 of a mile of billboard. I mean, and they don't move the cars. I see cars that haven't been moved so long they got bird nests growing under the tires.
To the credit of this dealership, we move cars around like it's going to be a snowstorm every single day. Like they make sure there's not two silver cars next to each other. Like they have them all on an angle right now, so it looks like there's more cars rather than the way we used to park them before. So everybody's at like a 38-degree angle exactly lined up outside. Inside in the showroom, we have all the cars. We got these we put all LED lights in, so they look like the diamonds in the case when they're shining under there. They're not the dull colors. They're the ones with the pearl paint. So our credit. We do understand the showroom experience of, hey, put the diamond in the case and the glittery. The watch always looks better and wants you to pay a little bit more when it's in that glittery case. And so it's on your arm. So it's on your wrist. So we believe in the sizzle. Sell the sizzle, not just the steak, right? So we believe in that. Yes, sir.
Jim, I'm at a different angle since everybody's talking about what they talked about so far. I'm gonna take it from a hardware standpoint. I'm amazed how many stores I walk into and they still have desktops running on Windows XP. Every salesperson should have a tablet that can run the CRM's mobile app, so therefore they can communicate with the customers, make phone calls, send text through the native app, through the CRM, so that it's all recorded instead of using their personal devices. And I'm
what
gonna share this.
Great observation, big guy. That's where I'm at.
And I'm gonna share this.
Scott, where are you with that, Scott?
So for me, I'm going to take a different approach. I think most of the traffic starts online. And so I would de-emphasize my showroom and I'd flip and make most of my in-person traffic is coming from fixed ops. And so I would sit here and make my fixed ops area the center of attention. I love what Connor said, because I think from a sales side, I think the showroom shifts a little bit to a little bit more specialty type stuff for the people who are coming in, and on the online experience is not enough. If you go to buy a Bentley or something like along those lines, what he's talking about, when you go to shop those cars, they've got the paints and the leathers and all that type of stuff out for you to kind of pick and choose. If you go to buy any type of high-end luxury, if you go to Miami and you're going to shop condos or some high-rise on Miami Beach or something like that, they do the same thing with their fabrics for furniture and their tiles and their granite and all that other type of stuff. And so I think we're foolish to think that only people who are buying luxury items want that experience. So I don't understand why. And I think the showroom part of it can be smaller if you incorporate some of the things that Connor's saying, which would reduce or give us more space for the fixed ops part of it. And you know what? And I would also make my fixed ops. I've been in dealerships where the fixed ops is front and center. You see the shop is so clean. If I'm a customer in that lounge, I can see through. It's almost like eating in a fine dining restaurant and opening up the kitchen, right?
Most of the Mercedes dealerships and BMW dealerships today are glassing their
our
service
Lexus store is that
departments,
way.
where from the customer lounge you can watch them work.
Yeah,
correct.
I've seen that. I don't want to stay on this subject too long. We got a lot to cover. Now here's Jonathan Dawson's. You're sitting up there, Jonathan. You ready? Processes and training. How do you sell cars? What do you say? When I first got in the car business in 1976, they threw me in a room with a bunch of Jackie B. Cooper tapes and said, "Don't come out till you're trained." And nobody ever trained me again that I didn't sign up for myself. And I constantly paid to re-educate myself. The dealer, until F&I school, the dealer never paid to re-educate me as a salesperson. And very few educate the people how to be managers. For years, I had the only sales manager training in the known universe because, first of all, nobody was qualified to train it. And second of all, nobody was doing it. Everybody was a sales trainer. Nobody was a management trainer.
Right. I mean, it still feels that way. I mean, I know I focus with our sales management teams, but Jim, I think it's still really scarce. We have so many sales trainers and no sales managers. And I know you were teeing up Jonathan. Sorry, but I just had
I'm going to tee up Jonathan hard here in a second.
There's really no point in training a sales team if your management team isn't all on the same page. Who's holding them accountable if they don't know?
That's true. Because I was on the internet the other day, and I am appalled at some of the people that think they're sales trainers. I am absolutely cringing at all the unqualified people. I was watching on the other day, and there's about 1,000 videos by some hillbilly, can't speak King's English, teaching crap I taught 30 years ago. Jonathan, talk about processes and training.
Well, I think it does start to Jennifer's point. It starts with the management, of course, but I believe it really is a culture thing to begin with. So here's a very practical thing every dealer can do going forward to prevent this from being an issue going forward. And that is when you're recruiting for people, Make sure that in your ads, in the way that you write the language of the ad, in your process for onboarding, that the word training is coming up in those stages of the recruiting process. What I mean by that is I find that sales managers will complain and say, John, how do you get these guys to train? They won't train. Even my newest guys, they don't want to train. They don't want to train. Nobody wants to train. Nobody wants to get better. And I say, well, pull up your last ad that you ran, and I'm looking for the word training. I want to see, does it say we're a store that believes in training? Does it say that we are a store that provides training? Is it a store that says that you will be trained? And the reality is the word training often doesn't come up in a conversation with a new hire until you realize they're sucking at what they're doing. And then you're like, this person needs training. But if in the very beginning, when you were describing and defining your role, if the word training was in, for example, a sales ad, if you were hiring for salespeople and the word training was in the ad 5 times, the person who responds to that ad is a person who wants training. And so I tell my management teams, make sure your ad mentions training. Then as part of the recruiting process, send them to, for example, YouTube and have them watch a training module. And then as part of the interview, quiz them on their ability to retain and execute the technique you had them watch.
Jonathan, I'm going to back off of that. Jonathan, I'm going to back off of that just a second, because I don't want them going to YouTube because of the disparity of difference.
Yeah.
When I first started my business, I was hired by Ford Motor Company to train the minority dealers, African American dealers. They made it. Jesse Jackson and Ford had an agreement. They'd have 300 black-owned dealerships online, and I had an aggregate contract for $1 million from Ford to be on their training videos, their F&I training. I was doing the minority dealers. I had about 4 different things I was doing with Ford. Collectively paid me $1 million a year. And what got me so upset was when I went in a dealership and I trained the sales force, the managers and the salespeople, and then Ford Motor Company 3 weeks later would send another trainer in there with diametrically opposed philosophy than what I trained them. And he would basically untrain everything I trained, and then I had to go back and untrain all the crap he trained. And it was getting to be, and they were paying me a fortune to do that. And that other clown, other trainer, was also being paid that kind of money. So, Jeremy, what's your thoughts?
Well, obviously with the role that I just took, I'm big into, training now, so that's a lot of what we do. But think about it. Most dealers or general managers are taking salespeople, promoting them to sales management roles, when yet they were never trained as a salesperson. So why do we all of a sudden expect people who were never trained on how to do the job they're doing today to turn around and be able to train people how to do the job? So, you really need to have, honestly, outside help, or have someone specific to your group or store who's been responsible for that solely. Like you can't.
Well, you got on top of
that though. But what Jonathan had said in the ad is important. The most successful organizations, and I've worked with some of the largest auto groups in the country. The most successful organizations have continuing education as part of their core values. So outside of just the ad and making sure that your managers are trained to be able to help their team succeed, you need to make it part of your mission statement and your core values, because if you're not learning, you're dying. So you can just, pack it up and go on in. But even before any of that, remember, the whole point of this is we're stepping into it as we just bought that store, would be to roll that out as part of your core values. And
now you're working with 30 stores right now with just one organization, right? I know you're working with multiple organizations, but
across
your biggest client has 30 dealerships, and you're almost a manager in that company. Really, you can make.
Well, I'm a leader on the executive team. I've been working with this organization for over 3 years, very quietly, just coming in and disrupting the market like I love to do. So, we have a variety. We are a decentralized type of group. So each GM has a certain amount of latitude. There are things at the corporate level that we do kind of hold the strings on. But one of those things is continuing education. And it's very important.
Well, you take like an executive salesperson like Frank Graniti. Now, the last I heard, you sold 160 units in a month. I'm sure you've probably broken that number since then. But when I got one individual that sells 160 units, 120 last month, Now, he basically sells his own cars A to Z with very little management involvement. Is that pretty much an accurate description?
It's accurate, but Jennifer's so accurate because I mean, this accelerator of the way things have changed in the car business a year and a half ago up to 6 months ago, if you're still selling cars the same way that a trainer taught you 2 years ago or before COVID, even if it was working back then and it was the most relevant information, you are so far behind the curve now. Even if you're successful, you're actually losing business and market share to other dealerships around you. You may just not realize it because you're not currently training with the what's relevant in the marketplace now. So when I'm training, when I'm learning, when I'm training other salespeople, it's not what I did to be successful 6 months ago, a year ago. There's some core fundamental values that go into it, but what are we doing now to dominate the industry? What are we doing now to dominate the marketplace? What are we doing now to steal market share from the dealerships around us who are still doing business the old way because they're not training with a current trainer, or they don't have a corporate trainer on the book. So 100% she nailed it right on the head.
So when you have, as I through the years, and I was looking the other day, it's been 6 years since I desk deals. 6 years since I actually managed in a dealership. 6 years before I physically sat on a sales desk. And, I'm still consulting dealerships, not sitting on the sales desk. But when I did, I always created, or the dealers that listened to me, an executive team. Always, because I recognize that every salesperson isn't at a level to be an executive salesperson yet. I realized, I came to that realization years ago, but I was training executive level salespeople a long time ago with a lot of leeway in decisions they could make, what they could do. Scott Joseph, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to go back to training the managers for a second. So there's a different skill set for managing someone versus selling someone. So I think to be an effective sales manager in this industry, yes, you need to know and be up to date on all the proper techniques and the best way to sell a car, because you got to be able to teach that, and you have to be effective in telling or coaching, guiding your sales rep through that sale as you're desking deals. But at the same time, a lot of that job is also, where's the training on teaching people how to properly motivate, inspire people, how to hold people accountable, sure they're doing all the things necessary. I know Jonathan teaches a lot of stuff. A lot of the people that go through Jonathan's program, Frank's probably the best case study of it, right? In the sense that Frank probably does a lot of his own marketing and advertising. And so
probably, yes, he does.
Yeah, I do. So I'll just,
we do it all.
Yeah. And so where are we coaching and teaching people how to do that as well? Not just the sales process, but marketing and advertising themselves, branding themselves, and then holding them accountable to actually do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into management. So when you were touching on, you were the only person to kind of teaching management. I think that is a big hole, not probably just in this industry, but in a lot of industries that involve sales, which are most. I think most people don't know how to hold people accountable in an effective way.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I'll say to that, though, that no one has really touched on yet, talking about training. I think training goes into more of just teaching them the ins and outs of, this is how we sell a car, this is how we finance, this is how we desk deals. I think the main thing you need to get at training is setting that culture. And then you only have that, the best chance to set that culture is by training them. And you tell them, this is what we expect from the day in, day out, not just our processes, but who you are as an employee, who you are as a worker.
So one tip that I will share with everybody, and I use this in all my stores, is, and I am a firm believer, every desk in a dealership is its own business. You're lucky enough that we cover the overhead, we take care of these expenses, but your business will be as successful as you make it. So it's very important in stepping into this that you're empowering your team members to run their business, whether it's a salesperson, a sales manager, F&I manager, or BDC manager. It's your job as the owner of that organization to identify what they need in order to run their business. Set them up and inspire them to do that on their own. Because if you just run around because that's the way I told you to do it, or to Frank's point, because that's how we did it 6 months ago before, everything, or a year and a half ago, because things have changed. But when you can inspire and empower someone to be successful in their own business, you will not have to babysit them.
That's right.
That's when you see big success.
I want to give an example of what Jennifer just said in a super practical way that expresses her thought there, that we tell them you're a business within a business, but then practically we don't actually treat them like that at all. Yeah. When you think about like the way most dealerships treat their salespeople, we say you're supposed to be a business within a business, but then they don't learn marketing. They don't learn any advertising. They don't develop or build a brand. No. They don't have any brand marketing assets. They don't do anything. And then we tell them everything they're supposed to do. You're supposed to do it this way, come in at these hours, do all these things, do it this way, do this, follow this step. It's like, what business within the business are we talking about at that point?
Well, Jonathan, even before advertising, they do not teach them how to manage the metrics that drive their success.
That's right.
They don't even know how to.
They don't know any of their numbers. They don't know their closing rate. They don't know their up rate. They don't know their calls. So what I
they don't know the numbers. What a strong statement.
Yeah.
I used to always, if a salesperson couldn't tell me their average gross per unit back when gross was the thing we were supposed to be doing, what is your average gross per unit? If they didn't know, I had a problem with that. Yeah. If they didn't know their average commission per unit.
How about this, Jim? It's the 17th of the month, and you ask them how many cars you got out, and they go,
"Oh, I see that all the time."
6. I think I have 6. Like, it's the 17th, you have 6 out, and you don't even know if you have 6 out. So
well, you got to remember, we sell 2/3 of the cars after the 15th.
We do, yeah.
And I mean, nobody has ever. Everybody says we got to really increase the. You're not going to increase the sales. That's the way money flows through the U.S. economy. Always have, always will. You're not going to artificially make the first half of the month greater than the second half.
No, but I can fast start bonus my folks into getting on it a lot sooner. I sure can.
Or you could bonus them on the second half and have double the results.
Well, actually, so I do a shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's a super technical analysis that I do with my teams. And we take the 90 days rolling average on how they are on handling and activities, and we break it apart over the month to say, here's where you should have been to hit the store's average. Here's where you could have been to be at the group's fast. And if you really wanted to take it up to a whole different level, you could actually, and breaks it all the way down into units and gross, which gets them fired up, and then they care about the activities. And we do a lot of outbound prospecting in the beginning part, because you're right. I can't get the consumers to start inquiring and walking in and doing their consumer.
So what I was doing for Jonathan's statement was, if my salesperson is not 1/3 of the way toward their monthly goal by the 15th, 1/3 of their way, knowing that they're going to sell 2/3 of the units after the 15th, nobody's ever changed that. Nobody's ever made that happen. So, and by the way, every dollar you spend in advertising after the 15th is twice as effective as the dollar you spent before the 15th. And nobody has ever changed that formula. That's just the way money goes through the American economy. Always has, always will. You're going to sell 2/3 of your units in the second half. And I need my salespersons to understand, if you're not 1/3 of the way towards your goal by the 15th, we have to make an adjustment. And most managers don't look at their people periodically through the month unless they're really drastically behind. Would you agree with that, Max? Max?
I would agree with you. And another point I want to make, when you said you were asking salespeople about their average gross profit, just ask them about their closing ratio, right? And most of them wouldn't be able to answer that question.
They don't know any of the stats.
They answer it. They just give you the wrong number.
Right, but this is like high-tech math for them because nobody taught them how to calculate their closing ratio. So we are not empowering them. And I agree with Jennifer wholeheartedly, right? So I believe that unless it's written, right, it is new, but unless it's written, it's not real, right? So why don't you write down your corporate values, your corporate mission statement, and really, put it out there. Don't hide it. Right, make it known to your employees that your organization stands for these particular values. And one of these values is continuing education and empowering employees, right? And if you're not going to clearly articulate it, you will never get there, right? Because people will always take a path of least resistance.
I agree. Jeremy, where are you on that?
It's just, and I'm going back to the point we talked about earlier, yeah, it's the culture, it's setting that up front. But at the same time, you've got to decide what processes are they going to be training. You're the new owner of the dealership. You've got to have a way that you've got to have in your mind your processes. So ultimately, it falls to you to instill those processes in your managers to make sure they are rolling down that process to the people below them.
Frank Crinity Motors, though, it starts with culture. Like, you can have all the training in the world, okay? Customer service is, we are actually servicing the customers. That's where the culture starts here. From me to Marianne, to Justin, to Dean, and to everybody that's on my team that makes me be able to be as successful as I am every single day, not just here, but on social media, out in email world, out into the community, everything. It's all about culture, because you could have all the training in the world, but your culture will derail you at every single aspect of it if it's not an integral part of what you do every single day. So culture has to be the number one thing at my dealership. The way that everybody's treated, not just with me, but when I hand somebody off to the service department and they just randomly walk in off the street with a problem, they'll get the same level of customer service of the customer that they get when I'm here, when I'm not here, when somebody else is in front of them. That's where you start at Frank Crinity Motors, no matter what franchise that is the most important thing to me. All this training, everything that's all important continuously, everything, the diamonds in the case, all that falls short if you don't have the culture to go along with it.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at that for a second. One of the things I'm going to do, and this is where we're going to go to the next subject. When I buy a dealership, I'm not going to buy the corporation. Matter of fact, I'm going to basically fire everybody that works there, and everybody's going to reapply. Nobody has a job, because there are people that work in a dealership. I go to 20 groups, and I ask the 20 group a question. Does anybody have anybody in your dealership that should be fired, that should not be working here? And almost every dealer in the room, yeah, I got, and I was in Lake Tahoe at a 20 group, General Motors multi-dealer 20 group. And I said, does anybody, I got this one sales manager that does this and does that and does that. And I said, really? He does that and you're putting up with that? Yeah, I sure am. I said, have you got bars on your cell phone? And the guy said, yeah, I do. I said, let's call him up right now and fire him. And I bullied this dealer in front of 20 other dealers to firing a guy on the air. Now, I don't fire people until I do the 4 E's. Evaluate, educate, elevate, and then you exterminate. Mm-hmm. But I still go through evaluate, educate, elevate, or exterminate. That's the 4 E's of Zieglerism. You got to make an effort to educate them and elevate them. And if they refuse to be elevated, educated, or to go dealership process, then they can't stay here.
They fired themselves.
They sure did.
They fired themselves. They sure did. And the dealer gets on the phone. He said, look, Fred, this is your dealer. I know it's Saturday morning. Go out to the parts department, get a cardboard box and pack it and get that shit out of my dealership. I mean, why would you keep somebody 5 seconds past the point when you know they're never, ever, ever going to do your process, do your culture? They don't fit in. They're never going to fit in. They refuse to fit in. They refuse to be trained, or they're incapable of being trained. Why would you keep somebody like that 5 seconds longer? Well, I need coverage. I need coverage. How many times have I heard that?
So somebody
get on that. Somebody get on that.
Well,
just hire me. I'll cover everything. We're good.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
The first training I ever got as a manager was the 5-minute manager series. And if you're familiar with this, you're old like me. But it's if you have a problem with a team member, it's one of 2 reasons. 1, they don't know, or 2, they don't care. It's our job to eliminate the don't know. That's your educate and elevate, Jim, that you're talking about in your Zieglerisms. And if they demonstrate after you have done that, like I hate it when people are like, oh, my sales team is weak. No, they're not weak. You are not a good leader. You are not helping to elevate them or educate them. Because if it were all the salespeople on one floor were bad, that's because whoever is leading them is bad. And we need to take some ownership in that. But that plays right in. Oh, I can't let them go, or they still give me 15 cars. I'm sorry. It is, especially going in, slapping your name on the side of the building. It's the right time to do it. It scares me when you say you would just eliminate everybody and then make everyone re-interview. I think only because of some of the friction that could cause. And I've seen this in a lot of buy sells, right? Where they're not supposed to, but the outgoing owner creates some unrest. That is something you have to overcome, but I think it's the right thing to do, so long as the team understands it walking into it. And if they're not willing to do it, then they're not willing to learn the new way. So,
well, it's not just about how many cars they sell. It's not just about how many units they put across the curb. When I was running dealerships, the sign in my office, on my desk, or over the door always said, "A bad attitude is grounds for termination." And that was regardless of production. Jonathan, jump in there. I see you chuckling.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of points on that. So I witnessed what you described about the walking in and firing everybody outside of Omaha Toyota store. And I was calling, this is back when I was setting up seminars many, many moons ago. And I was setting up a seminar outside of Omaha, stopped with this guy, and it was the owner who had just bought the store about a month and a half earlier. And he announced that he was going to be firing everybody. He told everybody, everybody.
I would never use the word firing.
Well, he said everybody will get a chance to interview for a new position because everybody's current positions will end on this date.
Some of you are going to free up your future.
Yeah. So he announced that, but I met him right after he had done this purge, and there was him, a finance person, and a salesperson running the entire front of the store. A store that had 15 salespeople now had him, a finance person, and a salesperson out of the entire front end.
If it was Frank Cornetti, I wouldn't worry about it.
I wouldn't worry. Yeah, right. But I had met him like right after he did that, and he was like, you know what? I'm not going to tolerate what the other owner tolerated because the other owner tolerated it, and that's why I was able to buy this place.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to repeat.
Jonathan, have you heard the old saying, you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect?
Yeah,
the Zieglerism, there's a Zieglerism on the end of that. The Zieglerism on the end of it is you got what you tolerate.
Yeah, exactly. And I say all the time in my management training that people will rise to the lowest allowable standard you tolerate. And so whatever you complain about is effectively something you're tolerating. That's why you're complaining about it, because it's a persistent pathological problem you tolerate. So don't complain about something you tolerate, because you're tolerating it is why it still exists. So if you're complaining, you're tolerating, and that's the clue that you need to change something. But I also was part of a store transition. This is actually a Honda store south of Atlanta. I can use the name. It was Willett Honda. And the dealer came to me and said, I want to do a full transition, not quite Max Zanan's, one price, but he wanted to do product specialists and get away from the salespeople being the person who did everything. And so he hired me, who then I hired and trained offsite for 2.5 weeks, 20 people. And then we walked into the dealership, fired everybody, posted the new job description, had the people in the wings, and then rehired only a couple people. And I was part of one of those experiences. It was pretty interesting.
And by the way, I would probably keep the majority of the people that worked in the dealership. It's not a matter of
they might just be in the wrong spot.
But I would get rid of bad attitudes or people that were misplaced in their job descriptions. Scott, you're shaking your head. Talk to me.
Well, anytime you do a buy sell, technically, legally, all those people don't have jobs anyways.
Exactly.
So what happens is most of the time, to make it easy,
unless you buy the existing corporation, they do have a job.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, but in most cases that's not happening. So, but what most dealers do is they take the easy way and just bring everybody along with them
because they have a pulse.
Yeah, so I like the interview process.
I need coverage.
Yeah, I like the interview process. But for me, we talked a little bit about core values and things like that. I agree with Frank 100%. Culture is everything. And the number one thing for me on all 3 stores, and I've done it right twice, We have 3 stores, and I've done it terribly wrong on the 3rd one, and that is the general manager. So the general manager, first off, you never see a bad store with a great general manager.
Amen.
No,
it just does not happen.
True statement. By the way, I want to point something out. Frank Crinitti has gotten out of his chair 6 or 7 times and turned off. He's probably sold 6 cars while we're talking. I mean, seriously, this guy sells 160 cars a month. I mean, one of the top salespeople in the country, and I've documented that. So when he gets out of his chair, he's not being disrespectful. He's going to close another deal, and he just put another one across the curb while we're doing this broadcast. So
it's so true. So one thing I can bring up about that, because Frank and I are the founders, along with Ali Reda, who many of you know, of the Pinnacle Society. And the Pinnacle Society, our current members, the average unit volume is 50 cars per person per month of the members in our Pinnacle Society.
I know that.
We have the highest, some of the best salespeople in their brands and in their markets. And one of the things that I think would also be
best tagline in the business.
Yeah, it's no longer lonely at the top. That's our slogan. It's no longer lonely at the top. So when we created the Pinnacle Society, we were looking. We knew that there would be commonality. It didn't matter if you were selling Chevrolets in Colorado or selling Lexus in Chicago. It didn't matter. We knew that the high producers all have commonality of behaviors, of beliefs, of consistency, of activities. So one thing I would
let
say.
me ask you something. Interrupt you.
Yeah.
How do they get in touch with the Pinnacle Society?
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. So
give a phone number. I need a phone number.
Just go to you can give them my phone number 612-387-7776. You have my number.
Okay. Hey, I want it right now though.
612.
Yeah.
387-7776, and it's just thepinnaclesociety.com. Is the site, but you have to qualify to meet certain minimum standards or you can't even apply. But the point what I was trying to illustrate why I was bringing that up was because when you're associated with this high caliber quality of people all the time, and what you find is that one of the things that I think every store could benefit from when it comes to processes and sales training is just expecting more from people in general. I find that most dealers have this kind of like, to sell 100 cars, we need 10 people. And they still have that, even though that thought process is incredibly outdated. But a lot of stores still think that you have this 10 to 12 car per person average. And I think one of the things if I went into a store tomorrow, one of the first things I'd do is I'd institute what I call the rule of 22, which is a minimum acceptable average of 22 cars per person per month as the new minimum standard. That's the minimum number, 22. And then everything goes up from there. And so I feel like one of the things that we would do if I took over a store is we would elevate people's expectation of what they're supposed to accomplish while they're at the dealership and what's possible to be accomplished while you're at the store. And since implementing the rule of 22 at dealerships all across the country, it's been fascinating to watch how relatively quickly dealerships' entire sales organization elevates their standards for themselves when someone expects greatness out of them and believes it's possible. This goes back to culture. So
amazing. You know, the last time I was a salesperson before I crossed over to management job description, before I became a manager, that was probably 1982. And I sold 30 cars most months. And that was considered the top of the world. That was considered unbelievable in 1982. From 1976 to 1982, I've been in the business 47 years. I sold most months I would approach or hit 30 units. There were months I didn't, but most of the time. And that was, I never looked over my shoulder for the number 2 person on the board. I was way out in front. And that's not the way it is today. Okay, now anyway, the next subject I want to hit on this thing right now is Max, you brought this up earlier. Scott Joseph was stomping all over it. Website. What are we going to do with our website, guys?
We're not going to allow OEMs to mandate who we should use for our website. And the reason I say that is, so first off, I agree with what Max was saying, his intent, I believe what I understood his intent to be, and that is we have to focus there. and it's probably the number one priority. It's where most of our customers see us first. The problem is when OEMs start mandating who to use. First off, most of these dealers that are mandated, I mean, if you look at Chevrolet dealers, it's the reason why for a long time they had 2 sites, because they hated the one that was mandated so much they went ahead and got their own on another platform or another company. The OEM doesn't mandate the process we use for customer satisfaction. It doesn't mandate the process we use for the customer experience. It rewards and incentivizes us for certain metrics that we hit. So why wouldn't they do that for digital marketing and or for the website? Why wouldn't they just reward dealers that say, all right, we expect a minimum of conversion rates of this. We expect this level of traffic. We expect, in other words, reward or incentivize the end result you're trying to accomplish instead of mandating who they should use. That's my 2 cents on that.
Mm-hmm. Somebody else jump in on that subject. Website.
Oh, website. So
I think what's important when you build your website is you want, cause like we were saying earlier, you know, your website's really where the sales starts. So I would want to have something on my website that shows what makes us unique, what makes us special, what makes us better than the dealerships down the street. So whether it's you're being involved in the community or you put out more cooler cars than somebody else, you know, whatever you're trying to attract that customer to, that's what's important to put on your website. The group I just got done working with, they're pushing majorly for tire sales. So you look on their website and it's majority about tires. And then I'm sure whenever they switch positions on something else, they're going to re-implement the strategy, something else. But what I think is important, though, is they are what's on the agenda, what they're pushing is what their website has. It's automatically in the consumer's head that, hey, we also sell tires.
See, I'm going to disagree with everybody for a second because I think it starts with your reputation, right? Nothing drives me to your website like the reputation of your business. So like I'm going to concentrate more on what my online presence is and what it's directing people to, and like, you know, what my actual reputation is. So when I'm training all the salespeople that I train, or when I'm looking at it myself, I'm worried more about not what's on my website, what my online reputation is, what people think about me, because that's what's going to actually funnel them to me, my website, or to actually get to the end result, the goal, you know, for them to do business here with us, and then to share it with the world out there is what I'm more worried about. Websites I don't actually go to anymore. I mean, you know I might be the oddball here, but I do everything on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I go from a link right from there because of either somebody's reputation or something that I see that attracts me, that shiny object. But website, how do I know about your website? How do I know who you are?
But you know about website via search. And this is the problem, I think, that and I have told so many GMs, I don't really care what you want on the website, because it matters what Google wants to see structurally and what your consumers want to see. And Frank, your point about reputation and attracting them based off of your reputation, they're still going to find your website, and Google is going to serve it up if you're answering the questions right. And 100%, people who are searching the reputation of a dealer are low funnel consumers. So for that traffic, you should be giving them a relevant landing page. But the problem is, especially with the OEM websites, and I was one of those Chevy dealers who buried all of the OEM website. I had 5 Chevy stores within 12 miles of each other. We buried those CDK sites and built our own vanity sites because we needed to build a site for our customer and not for the GM or the owner. If you're not building a website customer focused, because Google is customer focused, just like Jim's got the Google My Business right there. Google My Business is the #1 source of organic traffic, and Google is making it that way. Your reputation scores there, links, you can have your inventory listed there. You can chat with your consumers from there. It's about one-click conversions, and it should be the same way on your website. It should be very easy for consumers to get to what they need and engage with the content that they're looking for, whether it's inventory, if you got any right now, or the reputation scores, or your why buy, like Colin was saying. It's got to be something that the consumer is looking for. If you're not optimized for search, and that's the problem with all these I get fired up about
Enough
dealership
of that.
website
Enough of
platforms.
that.
Well,
Jennifer,
but-
I gotta cut everybody
Oh,
short.
oh yeah, that's a whole
We're-
show all by itself.
We're at the end. We're at the end of our hour. I try not to run this thing too far over. We're right at the 59-minute mark. So anyway, I think we've had an exceptional broadcast. I think we've covered a lot. This is a high content. This session really went really well. I'm real pleased. The Dawg Pound has taken off. I mean, we aggregately got 20,000 views recently on all the social channels put together, and people watching over 60% of this thing. They're not bailing out. So our stats are looking good. We're changing it up every week. The people are watching this thing, so I'm real pleased. Frank, thank you. Thank Jonathan. Connor Cummings, you were really a pretty valid contributor here, Guy. Scott Joseph, glad to have you. Jeremy, congratulations on the new position. And Max, one of these days, everybody will go one price.
Or not. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a personal choice.
It is the end of the day. The show's over almost. Anyway, anybody that wants to hang around after the broadcast, I'm going to end it right now. Everybody wave bye.
Thanks, Jim.